humans, handicapped humans, which the Center for Advanced Legal Studies has published it in 19 by the Academy, 1978. Then next time it is after nearly 2 years, Dr. J.G. Griffith, professor of the Indian London School of Economics, delivered the lecture, Public Rights and Private Rights. The book is available now. And of course, we'll be giving a book at a later point because we'll have to get more copies of that. Then Dr. Ubendra Bakshi, he has delivered the lecture on Marx, Law and Justice, but it was jointly given. The publication right was jointly given to us and also to Eastern Book House based on our own consent. And then the fourth one was after nearly 7-8 years. Dr. Peter G. Sack, professor of the Australian National University, Constitutions and Revolutions. That book is also available here. Then we had Justice Markandeya Kajju, Judge, Supreme Court of India, who delivered in 2008 India and the Constitution. Well, he wanted to make it more elaborate before publication. So it's still at the stage of publication after 4-5 years. So we are just after Justice Kajju who getting the full-fledged form of that. It is after almost 6 years after that we are having this lecture by a foreign jurist. And as you know, Sri V.K. Krishna Menon is a world-renowned diplomat, political leader, and a world leader in all sense. I will not go in detail into all this because that will be too much for me to preach on and say more on who he is. Such a great man, which our India has produced. Started as a diplomat, then his historic speech in the Security Council defending Kashmir. That is even now the longest recorded speech in world history in the United Nations. 8-hour speech. That is always there, recorded as a legendary speech of all times. Then his association subsequently leading the delegation, Indian delegation, not only in various forums of the United Nations, and his contributions there for India. The non-alignment movement, which had its roots in V.K. Krishna Menon. And later he became the Defense Minister of India, a parliament member, and he occupied so many important positions. And we should be proud that he is from Kerala. And Govalwala sir has the fortune of working with V.K. Krishna Menon sir. But in spite of my close association with Govalwala sir, only today I am coming to know that he is having such a close association with V.K. Krishna Menon. So it is to commemorate his memory and to show our commitment to such a great leader from Kerala that we have been organizing this and publishing it. And in future, we would make this available in the e-form also, because we are going to the digital KLA. We are in the process of e-Kerala or digital Kerala. So that is also digital KLA. That is also on the anvil. Now, the main guest for today, as I told you, we always ensure that this memorial lecture is always delivered by a person of eminence. And there is no other person than our chief guest today, who is a person of great eminence, is Good Mundur. I'm sorry, sir, if my pronunciation goes wrong. To Erickson. Yes, Good Mundur Erickson, who is presently serving as a professor and executive director of one of the greatest institutions in India now, O.P. Jindal Global Law School. And he is a jewel in the Global Law School, as I know. And he is such a distinguished personality, an international jurist of great repute, that he has served in very many great positions, For example, almost for 8 years, he was a member of the International Law Commission. Then after the tenure was over, he served as a judge in the International Tribunal for Law Sea. Now, our association is only teaching law students here about the International Tribunal on the Law Sea. And a judge is here before us who has been holding that post there. Then his book on the International Tribunal of Law Sea is one of the most celebrated ones. The last word on that. And if I go on elaborating on this, it will only be consuming his precious time for delivering lecture. But I can say even now he is so active in the international judicial decision making. And now presently also he is a member at the International Tribunal for adjudicating on the dispute as to the detention of the Ukraine vessels and servicemen by the Russian Federation, Russian Federation. That dispute is being, that arbitral issue is being adjudicated at the arbitration level by Sir Erickson, sir. And we are so happy, privileged, and should be delighted that he is here to deliver this lecture, which would be a treasure when it is published. And for the others, so far only we have only on constitutional law. Now we had gone to the international level, and especially the present day crisis of Ukraine, then Iraq, then Israel, then Iran, and all these issues, Lebanon, and now the international law is at crossroads. So it would be so interesting to hear what Professor Gudmore Erickson has to tell us. And on behalf of all of us here, and on behalf of the institution, I extend to you, sir, a warm welcome to this lecture series. Professor Dr. S.T. Srijit is another important dignitary, a legal luminary in all sense. So we should all be proud. This institution should be proud that he is an alumnus of this institution. Please give a big hand to him. Now I could tell you only the other day I read his article in Damn Jurisprudence in the Hastings Journal of International Comparative Law. I should say I have become a fan of him. This excellent article, extraordinarily excellent. I told to him himself, it's an extraordinarily excellent article. All the judgments are covered in such a beautiful fashion. But I also said my certain critics from my angle, which I also told him, because I always go by the biodiversity and ecology. So, but that is also dealt. That is all dealt in such, and only if the Supreme Court judges read it. And this is a new generation of law teachers we have in India. He is the model, I would say. See how he is doing this. He could influence, just like in the United States, jurists like him could influence our Supreme Court, just like the Harvard professors influence the US Supreme Court. Now, this is how the students are being trained by him. And I'm really delighted to see so many students in the OP Jindal writing such class articles. Only the other day I was dealing with a moot court problem, and I was searching for corporate law and merger acquisitions issue, competition law. I was searching for competition law, and most of the articles I found was by students, law students, very good articles. So the new culture is being built up in India, and we should be thankful to such great law professors like Professor Srijit. Welcome, sir, to this function. Thank you. Another distinguished personality with us is our Anand Prakash Mishra, sir. He's a professor. Dr. Anand Prakash Mishra is an alumnus of the most reputed Delhi University, which has contributed so many judges Maybe at a time, 3, 4, 5 judges would sit in the Supreme Court from the Delhi faculty law school. So he is also a very important person as far as OP Jindal Law University is concerned. He is the director of admissions. And of course, at times I also used to contact him with recommendations, but provided merit is there for the OP Jindal Law School admissions. So he is heading the admissions process there. And he is also a leader of the institution and a academic in all sense. He has honors from BA honors in economics from the Patna University. He's a rank holder in all fields, almost 2 decades of teaching, and we are extremely privileged to have you, sir, with us for this function. Welcome, sir. Welcome. And these are all great. The Professor Erickson is an alumnus of Columbia. Professor Srijit is also alumnus of foreign universities also. And another famous alumnus is our Anand Prakash Mishra. All of us are great personalities. We are very fortunate to have all of you here. And now all our guests here. For that, we don't need actually any welcome because they're all part of this institution. GC Govalpalla sir has today come. He is a surprise guest for us. He never told me that he would be here visiting us. And only today I came to know of the other relation also with VK Krishna Menon sir. He, as you know, he was the head of FACT, the #1 industrial unit in India. He was the head of Kinfra, the public sector company which is heading the industrial revolution in Kerala. He was also the head of Kelatron. And in almost all public sector top companies, he was either the managing director or chairman. And now he is also in the academic field. He is the executive council member of the National University of Advanced Legal Studies in Wales, and also a member of the academic committee, and all committees there. And today also in the afternoon, we will be having a meeting for that. Welcome, sir, to this function. Then the director of administration, students and faculty affairs, who is the real director on field, who is 24/7 here, who is our main man here. He is here just for sake of formality. Sir, I welcome you, sir. Anil sir, Professor K. Anil Kumar sir. The principal is also here, Harindran sir, who is another backbone of our entire system. Sir, welcome, Harindran sir. Professor Dr. Dikshana, Associate Professor, who is one of the organizers. She is here. Welcome, madam. And all other teachers. Ajita, the vice principal of the institution, is among the audience. That is Professor G. Anil Kumar. He is also there. Welcome, sir. And Ajita, madam, our senior professor here, Ajita, madam, also welcome, madam. And all others, I am not mentioning your names because everybody is important. The faculty, all the faculty members, I am welcoming all of you, all the students and others. Welcome to this function. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your warm welcome. I take this opportunity to welcome you too into this event, sir. Now, I would like to request Professor K. Anil Kumar, sir, Director, Administration, Students and Faculty Affairs, Kerala Law Academy, to present our token of praise on the dais. Sir, please. Now, Advocate Nagaraj Nair, sir, to present our esteemed publication. Sir, please. Now, we have the esteemed presence of Professor Dr. S. G. Sri, Sir, Professor and Executive Reputed Institutions, and he has authored and published in many journals, including the Third World Quarterly, San Diego International Law Journal, and Indian Journal of International Law. Furthermore, Sir is the recipient of several awards and medals, such as AAF Brand Award and Medal, and several research grants from several foundations. Sir, now I invite, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Days, I took my baby steps in this institution, my baby steps in law. I'm not saying that I've started to take giant steps, but I took my baby steps in this institution. So I take this opportunity to gratefully remember all my teachers. Most of them have departed for their heavenly abode. So it truly gives me 10 days, including my esteemed colleagues, faculty members, and students. I'll just speak for 5 minutes. I'll just try to set a context for what's forthcoming, which is Professor Gudmund Eriksson's lecture on international law. I'll speak about how international law was conceived in India. I mean, a topic generally don't deal with, although you need to make particularistic claims, the Indian exceptionalism, so to speak. We had these two options. And at that point, Prime Minister Nehru took a decision that Indian practice of international law will be non-aligned. That means we'll be a neutral observer to the global events. It doesn't mean that we'll resist international law in the spirit of decolonization or in the spirit of independence, but rather we'll critically accept international law. So that means we'll accept the universalism of international law with a tinge of particularism. So the Indian particularism was born at that point, but it was given a theoretical shade by a young scholar who returned from Yale in 1960 with the name R.P. Anand, who happened to be my professor in JNU long back. Professor Anand is also no more. Professor Anand at that point returned as a young Yale graduate, and he took a call at that point that we will follow Indian particularism. At the same time, we'll embrace universalism whenever it was needed. So it was not like Professor Anand burst into post-colonial discourses at that point, rejecting Eurocentrism of international law and got into a rhetoric. Rather, he decided that we'll walk along with the non-aligned policy of Nehru. So Professor R.P. Anand absolutely, he was responsible for developing this particularistic claims of international law. Rather, he gave an international law language to the non-alignment, which originally is an international relations language. Now, why V.K. Krishna Menon's name is important here? V.K. Krishna Menon, who's often known or who's often compared with Chanakya, Morgenthau, Machiavelli, V.K. Krishna Menon played a big role in developing the non-aligned policy. He was an advisor to Prime Minister Nehru, and he played a big role. I'm not getting into that. But non-aligned policy, you know that it's not like an absolute acceptance of the universalism of international law, but rather to be a neutral observer. But of course, we will respect international rule of law. So it was a devotion to the rule of law, but at the same time, not an uncritical acceptance of international rule of law. Well, uncritical acceptance of universalism, not of international rule of law. Now, India started to practice international law. So at that point, these scholars, Professor Anand and all his friends and colleagues, they developed a discourse which is called the Indian approach to international law, which is universalism or particularism within universalism. It sounded at the surface level more like India is unique, so we'll have a unique discursivity. We'll practice international law in a rather unique manner. But this India, which all the time boasted about its humane values, we fought a battle with Portugal in International Court of Justice. It was not India which fought the battle, rather Portugal dragged India to International Court of Justice because we were not respecting the sovereign rights of Portugal within the Indian territory. We said that we are an independent state. How honorably French departed, how honorably British departed, and yet Portuguese still remained within India. So Portugal definitely dragged India. And at that point, India all on a sudden left its particularism and came with a universalistic claim that it is our sovereign right not to allow Portuguese within India's non-alignment moved into an absolute embrace of the universalist possibilities of international law. Things did not end with Portugal. I mean, you should read this India versus Portugal versus India, this dispute, because you would see how much India, which otherwise claimed the particularism, went on to embrace the universalism of international law. We said that sovereignty is the very existence of a state. And if that sovereignty cannot be respected, there is no point in being under the rule of law, a rule of law of international or under international rule of law. Then the same India which preached peace, which preached universal values, we fought a war with China. What was that for? In the name of safeguarding the sovereign territories of India. We again fought a battle with Pakistan in 1965, again in the name of the sovereign rights of India to safeguard the territorial sovereignty of India. And in 1971, we even became a participant in the Bangladeshi war, again to make sure that Indian sovereign territory is not breached in the name of a Bangladeshi-Pakistani war. Now, there's a paradox here. On one side, we claim we are particularistic, we are peace-loving. Of course, we are still peace-loving. We uphold humane values. We have a particularism. But that same India went on to fight 3 battles, and all the 3 battles, including this legal battle which we fought in the court in the name of the universalism of international law. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that when Professor Anand and others argued that India is particularistic, they simply meant that India will pursue its self-interest. We were really playing the real politics. Now, is it wrong? Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. States are there to safeguard its self-interest. But self-interest is a little bad expression. People often call self-interest as egoism. That's not the case. Self-interest is pursuit of your own preferences. And what are these preferences? Preferences, those constitutional commitments which you have given to your people. So when anything is in the interest of the people, the state will not consider that as part of the state's self-interest. So what we called as Indian particularism, what we called as non-alignment was nothing but we were creating an honorable space for the pursuit of self-interest. But what is interesting about this is that, look, the pragmatism shown by the early Indian scholars, including R.P. Anand, V.S. Mani, they did get into, as I mentioned, a post-colonial rhetoric. Rather, they understood that as a state, we need to claim our particularism, and that particularism should help the state pursue its self-interest. This pragmatism of Indian international law scholars, it lasted almost until 1982, and we very actively pursued it. So the bottom line is that, look at that, how practice and theory, they were going hand in hand. But if you read particularism and say that there was an Indian approach to international law, which was altogether different from the universalism of international law, we'll be erring on the side of the rationality. We should know how much situationally aware our early Indian scholars were. And they sustained the non-aligned policy, and India was able to pursue its self-interest by fighting the battle in ICJ. Even though India did not, we cannot say we won that case. We waged 3 wars too with Pakistan, 2 with Pakistan, and 1 with China, all in the name of territorial sovereignty. But then, is India alone responsible for this, or is India an exception here? Well, I would say that no. If you look at the larger story, this is what states do. I'm going to make a statement which may not be acceptable to everybody. I'm drawing on from Louis Henkin. Most of the states obey most of the international law during most of the times, because many times international law coincides with the self-interest of the states. There is no state which is that altruism is a strategic stance often taken by the state. Self-interest is a fact. Politics is a fact. International law is very much politics. But then we have to pursue our self-interest, not in abject breach of the universal values of international law, which we have drawn on from the deep structures of human values or deep structures of human existence. So in sum, I'm not sure whether I've set a proper context for Professor Erickson to speak about, but all I was trying to draw is that look at how a diplomat like V.K. Krishna Menon and subsequent scholars of India, they walked hand in hand. Apparently, there is a schism. But of course, the deep structures, there was a clear connect. Our scholars were situationally aware. I would like to pay homage to those scholars. At the same time, I would like to pay homage to Pandit Nehru, V.K. Krishna Menon, who in India absolutely how there was an early effort to develop an Indian international law. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from Sir Erickson.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your words. We are truly honored. Now we have the presence of Professor Anand Prakash Mishra, sir. Sir is the Director of Law and Admissions of Jinda Global University and Outreach of Law School. He has spent over 2 decades in the field of legal education, pursuit of making Jinda Global Law School as the most preferred destination of legal education in whole of Asia. Now, I invite Professor Mishra, sir, to address the gathering on this occasion. Sir.
So, very good morning, everyone. And I don't want to come between the speech we all want to hear, but I will keep it very brief. My all thanks and gratitude to Kerala Law Academy and its distinguished director and faculty members who have invited us on behalf of Jindal Global Law School and OP Jindal Global University. I can only express my gratitude and thanks. This place, this campus, this institution has provided us some amazing individuals. One of them is here, Professor Dr. S.G. Srijit, who is in a way leading our law school. He is the Dean of Law School and responsible for almost running a big institution, a mammoth institution with more than 500 faculty and 5,500 full-time students on campus. There are other faculty members as well who are graduates of Law Academy. I was told also professor at law school. There are a few more faculty members who are teaching in the institution. We have even students in our LM program who graduate from here and come there. And quite good presence of Kerala in Jindal campus in Sonipat. So with these words, I will like to thank all of you for attending this very special lecture in the name of a very, very distinguished individual from Kerala and from our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for those wonderful words. Now, today, we have the privilege of being in the presence of a true visionary, Honorable Ambassador Professor Gudmundur Eriksson, sir. Professor and Executive Director, Center for International Legal Studies, Jinda Global Law School, and Advisor, International Office and Global Initiatives. From a very early age, Sir has had a passion for law. He has served as an ambassador of Iceland and was a former member of United Nations International Law Commission, as well as a judge of International Tribunal for Law of Sea. He is currently a professor and executive director of Center for International Legal Studies at Jinda Global Law School, Sonipat, and he's serving as a judge on the arbitral tribunal in the dispute on detention of Ukrainian naval vessels and servicemen, collectively known as Ukraine versus the Russian Federation. It is an utmost honor to have the presence of an individual whose brilliance has not only illuminated their field but also redefined it. I'm deeply privileged to invite Honorable Professor Gudmundur Eriksson, sir, for the session on international law in the best and worst of times. Sir, please.
Good morning. Well, I thank my colleague for this one point when he spoke of India having been dragged to the International Court of Justice by Portugal. In fact, my theme will be precisely that in engaging with international law and international courts, we are expressing our sovereignty. India was not dragged to the court. India had accepted the jurisdiction. And he also spoke about in the case of India carried out within the auspices of international, unfortunately, on conflicts. Well, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Thus began Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, referencing a period of great upheaval, the French Revolution. I will, as my colleagues noted, return to these words or relate these words to the present situation was a catalog of events and circumstances, including the Rwanda genocide, the atrocities in the former Yugoslavia, the invasions of Kuwait by Iraq and of Iran, and Iraq by the United States and its allies, the international responses to terrorism, which were being discussed in the Supreme Court of the United States at the time I made this lecture in 2007, and the consequences on the international human rights regime of the so-called war against terrorism. But turn from that period to the life and times of V.K. Krishna Menon, who we are commemorating today, a man who also witnessed periods of upheaval and distress and played a prominent role in the solution of some of the most serious challenges faced by the world community in the middle of the last century. And I here refer to the war in Korea, the rise, his role in Indochina, in the repatriation of United States airmen in China, the Suez Canal, and France's relations with Algeria, which were being discussed in the General Assembly of the United Nations. It is with this background that I thank the Kerala Law Academy for inviting me to present this memorial lecture. Advocate Nayan, I'm honored to be successor to the men you mentioned who had delivered the previous Krishna Menon lectures. What makes Krishna Menon's life so interesting to me is the many contrasts that he experienced in his life and work, exemplified, in fact, by the title of Jairam Ramesh's brilliant biography, A Checkered Brilliance, The Many Lives of E.K. Krishna Menon. In fact, although I never met Krishna Menon, I found in him, from reading of his life, a kindred spirit. And first and foremost, because the accomplishments which I mentioned were under the auspices of the United Nations. At a time of great turmoil in that organization, which had lost its way, many felt, from the guiding spirit of the founders in San Francisco. I made this point in the commemorative lecture I mentioned earlier, because Professor Sun, who had been a participant in the San Francisco conference, championed the role of international law in the resolution of international disputes. It was, in fact, his personal crusade to revive that spirit, the spirit of San Francisco. And I would mention specifically his seminal contribution to international law in the field of international law of the sea, in particular the settlement of disputes system, which was incorporated into the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, and led to the establishment of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, of which I was proud to be one of the founding members. I met Professor Sun in the context of his work at the Third United Nations Conference, which elaborated that convention. Kindred spirit, I say. I say this because of his association with the United Nations in a very important time of his career. Last month marked the 50th anniversary of my association with the United Nations. When I went from law school a few streets down in New York to join the Secretariat of the United Nations to deal with the very convention, the elaboration of the convention which I referred to earlier. Since then, I've spent a great part of my professional life with the United Nations. You heard a number of examples. And I would add that I was a founding director of a program of international law and human rights at the University for Peace, an organization which was founded under the auspices of the General Assembly of the United Nations. So you will find in me a great advocate for the role of the United Nations, and everything I will say should be seen in that context. To Krishna Menon, I find it appropriate to refer to the long-standing debate on the relationship between law and politics. Professor Sridhar introduced this element in our discussions today. Appropriate, I say, because it was very clear that there was a defining feature of he had within his own circles. And it must be said, he didn't always appreciate the views of his superiors, including the Prime Minister referred to earlier. In fact, a persistent, and I say paradoxical criticism of the discipline of international law is that it is too political, or that it is not political enough. As for the latter, I can share with you with despair how I have experienced as a government legal advisor when my colleagues from other government departments sought to characterize an issue as, quote, political, unquote, and thus outside the ambit of my authority to participate in a discussion of them. In his work, International Law, Politics, and Values, another of my mentors, Professor Louis Henkin at the Columbia Law School, said, quote, "The distinction between law and politics is only a part truth. In a larger, deeper sense, law is politics. Law is politics." When addressing this very issue in my speech in 2007, in my tribute to Professor Son, the best of times scenario included the then recent decision of the International Court of Justice in the genocide case brought by Bosnia and Herzegovina against Serbia and Montenegro. And perhaps the most significant feature of that genocide case was that it was brought at all. That the applicant, at the time when the conflict was still ongoing, should have turned to the court as a viable alternative to address the issues of war and peace and the horrendous issues of crimes against humanity being perpetrated. In the context of genocide, we see a political situation in extremis, with entities involved in that most political of activities, the use of force by one state against another. Nonetheless, the court, and I hasten to add that there were some of the judges dissenting, felt that it had the ability to address the legal consequences of this political activity. It must be noted here that the efforts by the court to prevent the atrocities, which, as I said before, were ongoing when the case was brought, were unsuccessful. But this is because of the failure of the parties to abide by the preliminary decisions of the courts, not because the court thought itself not incompetent to rule on these fundamental questions. Coming to the present day, I turn, of course, expectedly to the situation in the Middle East. Once again, the International Court of Justice is deliberating on the question of genocide. And from what the court has already decided in the form of provisional measures, it can be expected to go further than it did in the genocide case, which I referred to just before. Also, in its recent advisory opinion on, quote, legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, unquote, the court set out clearly the breaches of international law being perpetrated by Israel. Secondly, I would refer to what I said about the contribution of Professor Son to the elaboration of a comprehensive system of dispute settlement under the law of the sea. This included the establishment of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. As I said, I was pleased to be one of the original members of that tribunal. On May 2024, the tribunal issued, quote, advisory opinion on the request submitted to the tribunal by the Commission of Small Island States on Climate Change and International Law. This advisory opinion promises to have a landmark effect at a time when, quote, politics, quote, in the sense of the failure, the dismal failure of states to achieve agreement in their multilateral negotiations. We see a sea change when we have a ruling which will give advocates addressing climate change a legal arsenal to pursue their efforts. And this advisory opinion will be followed later this year by an advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice on the, quote, obligations of states in respect of climate change, unquote. 62 written comments of states and organizations have been submitted to the court, and the public hearings on the advisory opinion will open on 2 December. And finally, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights will soon be issuing an advisory opinion, quote, on the scope of state obligations for responding to the climate emergency, unquote, addressing climate change from a human rights perspective. This then is why I feel we can speak today of a period of the best of times. Now, of course, I fully admit that it can be taken as naivete to laud the role of international law in these turbulent times. Professor Hinken, my mentor, wrote in his book, How Nations Behave, quote, almost all nations observe almost all principles of international law and almost all of their obligations almost all of the time. I would, in conclusion, point to what I can take as an endorsement of the position I have taken here. When he returned to India to engage in a political career, as a returning hero, I venture to say, after the accomplishments which I referred to in the beginning, he was instrumental in the establishment of the in Society of International Law, active interest in the functioning of the society, and would lecture at the diploma classes. I'm honored to have been elected to the society as a life member, and I pay tribute here to Professor R.P. Anand, who welcomed me to the society. Professor Anand was one of the first persons that I met in India when I became ambassador now 15 years ago. He made a point of reaching out to me and welcoming me into his society and the society in general, International Law Society in India. I've been pleased to participate in the society's work ever since. The headquarters of the society bear the name of Krishna Menon, and visitors to the headquarters are greeted by his bust at the entrance to the headquarters, commemorating his contribution to the establishment of the society. This complex man, I feel, has been captured by one of his successors. One of his successors as Member of Parliament, Shashi Tharoor, when he wrote, and I quote, Krishna Menon refused a salary throughout his years of public service. He was driven instead by a burning desire to drive the currents of history, to lend his mind and his voice to the direction of world events and the course of his country's future, unquote. Ambassador K.P. Fabian, speaking at a function at the Indian Society of International Law, also commemorating Krishna Menon, answered himself the question he posed of why the world had listened to India in the period I referred to earlier. He said that, quote, it was because through Krishna Menon, India spoke with a compelling logic, clarity of presentation, and an ability to reconcile positions that appeared irreconcilable, unquote. I close in hoping that these when he seeks to address the issues of today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your words of wisdom. And we are truly honored to have you with us, sir. Question?
Getting my life. Sunback. Yeah.
Yes.
Look, I have to say one thing because I have to say one thing because hello. Say one thing. So I have to be very circumspect. That's very important. But I will say this, the very fact that those two companies, two other companies, are leaving my company with no happening on the ground. It's a company that you- but I thought both parties.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciation makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. With that in mind, now I would like to invite Dr. Dakshna Saraswati Ma'am, Associate Professor, General Secretary, KLAMCS, to deliver the vote of thanks for this event. Ma'am, please.
Ambassador Professor Gudmundur Eriksson, Professor and Executive Director, Center for International Legal Studies, JGLS, and Advisor, International Office and Global Initiatives. Advocate Nagaraj Narayan Sir, Director, Kerala Law Academy Law College. Professor Dr. S.G. Srijit Sir, Professor Anand Prakash Mishra Sir, Professor Anil Kumar K. Sir, Director, Administration Students and Faculty Affairs, Professor Harindran K. Sir, Professor G. Anil Kumar Sir, Professor Dr. Ajitha L. Ma'am, and other faculties, colleagues, and my dear students. As we draw the curtains on this enriching session of the V.K. Krishna Menon lecture hosted by Kerala Law Academy Law College in association with CULSA and IQSE KLA, I find myself deeply moved by a sense of gratitude and admiration to consider it an absolute privilege to present the vote of thanks to all those who have gathered here to be part of this event. First and foremost, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to respected Ambassador Professor Gudmundur Eriksson Sir, Professor and Executive Director, Center for International Legal Studies, JGLS, and Advisor, International Office and Global Initiatives, for his illuminating presence today for our event and his profound insights on the topic, international law in the best and worst of times. His journey, marked by exemplary achievements and tireless dedication, serves as a testament to his remarkable leadership and expertise in international law. His exceptional contributions have not only enriched the legal field, but have also inspired countless individuals around the globe. Sir, we are immensely grateful for the time and effort you have dedicated, for sharing your knowledge with us, and for opening the gates into the realms of international law. On behalf of Kerala Law Academy, teachers, students, and non-teaching members, and on my own behalf, I propose a sincere thanks to you, sir. I take immense pride in extending my gratitude to Professor Dr. S.G. Srijit Sir, Professor and Executive Dean, Jindal Global Law School, and Dean, Strategy and Institution Building, OP Jindal Global, Institution of Eminence deemed to be University, for his valuable presence and wealth of knowledge he brings to our academic community. Sir, your illustrious career, marked by significant achievements and awards and fellowships, and your contributions to esteemed journals and institutions, stand as a testament to your dedication and expertise. We are deeply grateful for the knowledge and wisdom you have shared with us. Thank you, sir. I would also like to extend our gratitude to Professor Anand Prakash Mishra, sir, Professor of Practice and Vice Dean at Jindal Global Law School of OP Jindal Global University and Director of Law Admission. Sir, your dedication to legal education and your leadership at OP Jindal Global University have been exemplary. Your extensive experience spanning over 2 decades and your commitment to making Jindal Global Law School a premier destination for legal education in Asia are truly commendable. On behalf of Kerala Law Academy and on my own behalf, I propose a sincere thanks to you, sir. We are truly indebted to Advocate Nagaraj Narayan sir, Director, Kerala Law Academy Law College. His constant support and tireless efforts have been the cornerstone of all the activities in this college. You have been a guiding light for all of us, providing valuable insights and ensuring that the college remains a hub of excellence and innovation. On behalf of everyone present here, I extend a sincere thanks to you, sir. I would also like to acknowledge Professor K. Anil Kumar sir, Director, Administration, Students and Faculty Affairs, Kerala Law Academy Law College, whose guidance and support have fostered an environment conducive to growth, innovation and scholarly disclosure. Today, as we reflect on the success of this event, we extend our deepest gratitude to Sir for his sincere dedication to the welfare of our institution and his commitment to the success of our academic endeavors, all of which have been nothing short of exemplary. I express my deepest appreciation and gratitude to you, sir. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor Harindran Kesa, Principal, Kerala Law Academy. Under his leadership and guidance, our achievements have flourished. Sir's attentive appreciation for even the smallest accomplishments fosters a culture of encouragement and growth within our institution. From the depth of my heart, I offer a heartfelt thanks to you, sir. I also extend a profound gratitude to Professor G. Anil Kumar sir, Vice Principal, Kerala Law Academy, whose tireless efforts and steadfast commitment are a testament to his passion for excellence. Thank you, sir. I sincerely thank Professor Dr. Ajita Nair Elmam, Professor and Senior Faculty, Kerala Law Academy Law College, for the pivotal role she plays. I express my deepest admiration for the immeasurable value she brings to our institution. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to acknowledge the contributions of our faculty members, students, and the entire teaching and non-teaching staff, and the IT and technical team whose efforts behind the scenes have ensured the seamless execution of this momentous occasion. I also take this moment to thank the enthusiastic student moderator, Vaishnavi Nagaraj. Your charismatic presentation has surely uplifted the tone of this event. Thank you, Vaishnavi. It's all your collective support, dedication, and participation that have made this event a memorable and enlightening experience for all. Once again, a heartfelt thanks to everyone present here. Thank you and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, ma'am, for expressing your heartfelt gratitude. With that, we have come to the end of the session. On behalf of our institution, I would like to thank all the dignitaries for joining us and enlightening us with their valuable words. I also would like to thank all those who have worked for the success of this event, because nothing would be possible without the wholehearted support and guidance of such strong-willed and determined people behind the curtain. I also express my deepest gratitude towards Advocate Nagaraj Narayan sir and Professor Anil Kumar K sir for providing us with such a great platform. I hope all the participants were able to relish each moment of this event to the fullest. Last, but definitely not the least, I thank each one of you present here for your kind cooperation. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead. This is Vaishnavi Nagaraj signing off. Thank you.